Seven Durlauf is a professor at Harris School of Public Safety at the University of Chicago. Joins us now to talk more about this scary threat. Sir, appreciate your time. Do you agree with the assessment, or how confident are you in the U.S.'s ability to defend against this type of warfare?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Let me say, first off, one wants to distinguish between the dangers to the United States homeland versus the situation in Ukraine. And what I mean by that is it's extremely unlikely that Russia would, under any circumstances, use biological or chemical weapons directly against the United States. The crisis right now is that if these weapons are used in Ukraine, that represents a qualitative change in the behavior of the Russians and leads to the dangers of subsequent escalation. By way of background, the thing to think about is the United States has two objectives. One is the humanitarian as well as strategic one of expelling Russia from Ukraine and allowing Ukraine to reemerge as a functioning polity. The second issue is that simultaneously it has to manage this crisis in a way that one doesn't go down paths of increasing escalation in which nuclear weapons are the endpoint and obviously the ultimate catastrophe. Mm-hmm. And so were the Russians to do this, that would represent a qualitative change in their behavior, which is going to require a qualitative change in ours. And so if you ask me the biggest danger of this, I would say, frankly, it is because it would then require the United States to, if I were the policymaker, to no longer have a no-fly zone and no longer keep boots off the ground within Ukraine.
Right.
And so I don't mean...
Sorry, yeah, I'm just onto your point, given the fact that we aren't seeing any deterrence with sanctions and other measures. What can you share? We talked about this a moment ago with Kelly about Russia's stockpile of chemical weapons and how real that threat is from them, their capabilities.
Well, the truth is, I don't think that certainly somebody without a classified clearance, which I don't have, can say anything because they're illegal. The claim that Russia makes is that the stockpile has been destroyed, and so they deny their existence, and so consequently, there's really very little knowledge of that that would be unclassified. I think what one could say is that we do know that there is every reason to believe they have them. There's every reason to believe they will not feel moral qualms in using them, as evidenced by what happened in Syria. And we have to, I think, naturally pair them with the other types of weapons of mass destruction, one of which is tactical nuclear weapons, they are not only known to be in the possession of the Russian military, but there's over 2,000 warheads. And so in my mind, the chemical weapons are, function slightly differently because they are not nuclear weapons, but they're in the same category of a profound change in the level of violence that is being used in the war, and it moves into what the world has already defined as war crimes.
A frightening thought. Before I let you go, what is the most dangerous chemical weapon out there?
I don't think that there's one I would say is the most dangerous. I mean, they come in different varieties. Some are nerve agents, others are blistering agents, and I could give you more horror stories. And so all of them have the same thing. They terrorize populations. They can cause, terrible physical consequences in addition to death. And so there's a good reason that the better angels of our nature on this planet tried to abolish them, even if it's been unsuccessful.
So good wins over evil on this one. Professor Durlauf, thank you. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.